Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome back to the Demetria Obilor show. I got another top 5 locked and loaded for you. We got to talk one of the hottest matchups of week 7 with the Vikings taking on the Lions and what's next for the Commanders. Some hope for the Raiders perhaps on the horizon, and then an observation on angry sports bettors and the rise in harassment athletes are experiencing on the professional and collegiate levels. But first, before we get all into that, can we talk about the state of music right now? Because hello, rock music is dead. R&B is dead. All we have left is pop, country, music that people pop Molly to understand, and then some sort of hip hop that's hot for a week and then totally irrelevant forever. I mean, or sometimes you get something decent once every few months from a Kendrick or a Future, and yes, even a Drake, or a song from Rod Wave, or I'm sorry, but every track really does sound the same. Then we've got those few hit wonders that are the Boss Man D-Los, and that's another artist who really, I mean, his songs really do all sound the same. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I like Boss Man. His music is funny, but it's not timeless, and he shouldn't be on any real person's top 5 alive. I mean, if he is for you, don't talk to me ever again, okay? And I'm not trying to be a hater. Like, if you go through my YouTube shorts or anything like that, you're gonna see some Boss Man D-Lo songs. He's got some hits. I can teach him this, you know, and I'm about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I like his style. It's fun. It's good for the moment. He's definitely reading a moment right now. But a clip of his went viral recently where he sarcastically changed up his rap style.
Spherical, I get very lyrical, barical.
And he did this in response to fans critiquing him, saying, what we already know, all your songs sound the same, bruh. And they do. I mean, he uses like 8 of the same words in every song. I mean, at least he's consistent, right? But come on. I feel bad for today's kids who really can't turn on the radio, even though people don't do that anymore, and just hear hit after hit. All we have now, like I said, is that TikTok rap. And I like it sometimes, but when I need some art, when I need some poetry, something like that, yeah, I'm putting Pac on, okay? I'm listening to the Kendricks, the Jay-Z's, the Biggies. Yeah, I want to hear something from Kanye West. I want to hear Rakim. I even want to hear the I Hate My Mama version of Eminem. I like Future as well. I mean, a lot of perks. Yeah, Percocet and fentanyl and all of this crazy stuff. But, you know, I guess it's kind of like a today's classic. I don't know, like 7:12 p.m. for me. I love that song. You know, but Future still, I mean, he's not touching the OGs. I mean, but he's definitely top 10 alive easily. But all right, week 7 officially kicks off later today with Thursday Night Football. Broncos taking on the Saints. Yeah, kind of the battle of the mid. You know, I'm more interested in division leaders, particularly the last 2 undefeated teams standing. So I gotta ask you this week, is your team 6-0? Vikings, Chiefs fans, stand up. Yeah, things are getting a little testy though in week 7 when the Vikings take on the Lions at home. And this is gonna be one of my favorite games to watch on Sunday because this game is an equalizer, a truth teller, so to speak, all right? This game will show you who's who. The Lions just mollywopped the Cowboys 47-9, but at this point, who can't? Yeah, let's put aside the fact for a second that the Lions have beaten the Vikings in the last 3 matchups, all right? But today's Vikings are not last year's Vikings. Seriously, who have the Lions beat that are on par with the Vikings this year? No one. And when you take a closer look at the teams they've beaten so far, not impressive. Okay, so what? They killed the Seahawks' 3-week undefeated streak, but who had the Seahawks beaten at that point? Broncos? Patriots? Dolphins? So what's that really worth? They beat the Cardinals. That's not saying much. The Rams in overtime? Why do you need overtime for that? They couldn't beat the Bucs though. And to me, that's been their biggest test so far. So is that enough to call the Detroit Lions untested? I'm not sure that's completely fair. But when it comes to the Vikings, they beat the Texans, I mean, who sit at the top of the AFC South and haven't folded since, the Vikings and the Texans actually. But nevertheless, here we are, and we can't ignore the Lions. Division rivals, and I'm telling you, Dan Campbell looks just like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't know, it's something about that team. I don't know if it's the Motor City grit or that lopsided Cowboys game combined with what we saw, of course, from last year, them clinching the NFC North title last December in a victory over the Vikings, then turning it around in January, then knocking the Vikings out of the playoffs. I mean, that was just 9 and 10 months ago. But that's why this game is so important. It's going to set the true tone for the NFC North. Vikings just traded some late round picks for Texas running back Cam Akers. This guy, he just can't stay away from the Vikings. He keeps getting traded back to him. But when we're talking RBs, I'm much more worried about the Lions dynamic duo. That's Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I mean, those guys are going by Sonic and Knuckles now. The Speedy Hedgehogs, of course, from the popular video game. One of my favorite games. And And I mean, they're one of the best RB duos in the league, okay? And that's what Brian Flores' defense has to stop. The Lions defense will be without star pass rusher Aiden Hutchinson, who suffered a serious injury after sacking Dak Prescott last week. He underwent season-ending surgery. I mean, hope you recover swiftly, but that will help the Vikings a little bit. Still gonna be a tough one. A bye week will hopefully have Darnold rested and recovered after what looked to be some sort of rib injury against the Jets in that first quarter a couple weeks ago. So I guess the question is, can Sam the Man Darnold actually do it? Will the line hold strong against Detroit defense and give him the time to get it down to Jefferson, Addison, or Hawkinson? You know, we'll see. Can Brian Flores' defense effectively stop Detroit? I hope so. You know, I want the Vikings to win, but I don't really have a bone in this fight. These are my teams. I'm an AFC girl. But you know what I mean? I don't know. The NFC is kind of, you know, spicing up the storylines. I'm liking the story arcs that are coming out of this conference. Anyway, teams have less than 3 weeks to make their trades if they're making them. And as a Chiefs fan, my mind's just been running wild at the possibility of landing a star wide receiver, but no shade to Xavier Worthy. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of that young man. And if we could do it with Rashee Rice last year, we could do it again. But we still like to have, like, you know, an OG back there, something like that. And it would have been nice to snag Amari Cooper. Bills got him. You know, DeAndre Hopkins would be nice, you know, getting him from the Titans. You know, it'd be interesting, right? And I actually forgot the Titans were an NFL team this year. They haven't been doing anything. So anyway, the Jets' Mike Williams, he'd be cool too, especially after all that Monday night mess with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if A-Rod will ever throw that man a pass again, and it's really not his fault like that. I didn't think that was fair for it all to fall on Mike Williams. But anyways, a Chiefs fan, I'm not super worried about it. We don't want to mortgage our future when we've got 5 more championships to win under Mahomes and Andy Reid. But speaking of trades, Davante Adams got his wish and he's gonna be reunited with his bestie Aaron. Yeah, he's going to be reunited with Aaron Rodgers in New York. Apparently, he already had his custom-made cleats ready to go, which is kind of hilarious. And then his hamstring injury is magically okay again. Yeah, he was on the Raiders bench for 3 games? Yeah, now he's all healed up. He's expected to play this Sunday against the Steelers, and the Jets are going to need him. Look, and I'm not mad at him, okay? If the ship's sinking, you got to jump. And like I said before, Raider Nation has been through it all. We know losing Khalil Mack in 2018 hurt so much worse. So, I mean, they could take anything at this point, but losing Max Crosby? Oh, that would have been too much. And the rumor mill really got going after fans watched Max Crosby give assistant coach Caldwell a bit of a love push on the sidelines, or a bit of a alpha male greeting, however you want to call it. I don't know. But owner Mark Davis has crushed any and all of those potential trade rumors. And I'm glad, because as over as the season is for the Raiders, that really would have been overkill. And that's just not fair. Okay, I honestly don't know who has it worse right now. I mean, the Raiders or the Cowboys. The craziest thing about the Cowboys getting beat at home like that by the Lions was that it was Jerry Jones's birthday, and getting beat like that on the team owner's birthday is crazy work. Or the cherry on top if you hate the Cowboys. And Jerry was fuming. I mean, even things got a little heated with the journalist in an interview he did on the radio. But back to the Raiders, okay? Because I guess there's a bit of a silver lining here, no pun intended. Tom Brady's minority ownership stake has been approved, and I think Brady's influence would do well for the Raiders. Tom Brady and losing don't really go hand in hand, and everything from helping select a new QB to even training him is what owner Mark Davis is imagining. Shedeur Sanders is going to be available next year. I mean, things are starting to look hopeful, but who knows? I mean, we're a long ways away from that, and the Raiders are going to need to keep stinking it up to ensure a franchise savior. But I feel bad for the players. The Raiders organization seems to just suck the life out of them. Josh Jacobs nearly lost his mind. Now Tay Adams. Max can't be happy. I mean, it truly sucks to suck. Okay, but can we get back to the Commanders? They don't suck, okay? Even though they lost to the Ravens, and I got to give it up to Derrick Henry. That guy is a beast. All right, he rushed for 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaging 5.5 yards per carry. I mean, this guy runs like a juggernaut. He's big, he's fast, and a constant reminder of what the Cowboys' rush attack could have looked like this year, but too bad, too sad, right? Baltimore's offense got 484 yards off Washington's defense. Woo! Zay Flowers was looking so crisp with the catches. In this game, Baltimore redeemed themselves as a Super Bowl contender, but the Commanders' defense isn't great. Like, we got to keep that in mind. I mean, they ranked 29th against the run, which is not where you want to be against the Ravens and its ground masters that are Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. But despite the Commanders' defense falling short, Jaden Daniels kept him in the game. He looked great, and I really believe that they would have won that game if star running back Brian Robinson Jr. was playing. He was out with a knee injury. Third downs would have looked a whole lot different, and it's going to be interesting to see what the team does before the trade deadline. It would be huge if they could bolster their defense. Cornerback would be nice, strengthening the defensive line. I mean, lots to think about, but this team is still in it. Playoff contenders? Absolutely. I mean, if they can manage a solid defense, and if everyone stays healthy, I see 4 NFC postseason conference obstacles right now. I mean, the Vikings. I mean, they don't play them in the regular season. I think the Lions, who they aren't playing either. And then the Bucks, who they lost to in the first game of the season. And then the Falcons, who they won't play until after Christmas. It's really interesting. But, man, to go from 4-13 last year, this team is on the rise, and I'm excited for them. So I'm going to keep following their storyline. So we've talked sports, but can we turn the focus onto the fans for a second? Because sports betting has turned some sports fans into frothing out the mouth, crazed Twitter warriors that harass players, wish death on athletes. And it's not just the men, and it's not just the pro leagues. According to the NCAA, 1 in 3 star athletes, college athletes, receive abusive messages from angry bettors, including death threats. For one study, the NCAA partnered with data science company Signify Group, and what they did was analyze social media for more than 3,000 college athletes. They found that female college athletes received 59% more abusive messages from these angry bettors than men. This isn't just happening in, the big popular sports, the basketball, football. 24% of those angry sports bettors were sending those messages to softball players. Hateful messages to softball players? Like, seriously? The study also showed that the messages are often sexually abusive, racist, homophobic. And all this just because you bet this month's rent on the over in a softball game? Sick, sad world. Look, I don't really gamble myself, but I don't have a problem with gambling. I think it's always better when you can put your money where your mouth is, and it makes things more exciting, gets the fans more involved and interested in the sport. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has been a proponent of sports betting for some time now. We're almost at the 10th anniversary of his iconic op-ed piece titled Legalize and Regulate Sports Betting, which was a huge contrast to previous NBA sentiments on betting. His words helped shift the landscape to where they are now. The NBA has more than 24 business relationships with gaming companies. It's a huge industry. Last year, the sports betting industry posted a record of $10.92 billion in revenue. So basically $11 billion in revenue. Fans study player stats even closer. You see these guys hitting off big wins all across social media. If you just do a quick Twitter search, you're going to see how heavily invested people are. But with everything, there are drawbacks, and the harassment of these players, in all sports disciplines, is definitely one of them. And I know a lot of people will say sticks and stones, but death threats, sexual abuse, homophobia, that's on another level. Trash talking players is prolific enough, but you add money into the mix and things go way beyond, you suck, man. But I always want to know what you guys think about it. It gets really, really, really nasty. It's like, I know that you're not supposed to pay attention to what people say about you on social media, but when there are hundreds of people, saying you need to be fired over the smallest thing, it's not even that the player performed badly. It's just that they didn't perform in the way that you bet on. And that's what's like, oh my gosh. But I always want to know what you guys think in the comments. So be sure to join the conversation if you're watching on YouTube. Let me know. Let's talk about your teams. Let's talk predictions. And let's talk about crappy music too, or really great music, what you're loving right now. I might need to add some songs to my playlist. But it has been amazing being here with you guys on this Thursday. If you're listening to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, any of that, make sure you take time to rate and review. Love hearing your feedback as well. But I will see you guys back here next Thursday. I hope you have a great rest of your week.